right. Well, welcome to our newest episode of The Sage and the Seeker. Thanks for joining us. Each week, we just sit down to talk about whatever topics might come to mind as we are exploring our own journeys of awakening and personal growth, as we are trying to evolve. And hopefully, you can see some of yourself in what we're talking about. Hopefully, or maybe you've been asking some of the same questions that we are talking about. And so you can find some insight as well alongside of us as we look to transform our lives and to become the best people that we can become. So I'm Antonia Dax, and my host Sung and I are here to share and question and laugh and figure out what we can, the best that we can. And we're so glad that you're joining us on our exploration. So today we are trying a new format, and we don't have a topic at all because we have found that when Sung and I just discuss and are much more in the flow, that we have much more interesting conversations. So that's our aim for today, and I hope that it does turn out that way, and that you find it interesting as well. So, Sung, what are your thoughts about this new?
Yeah, I like how we are improvising things on the fly,
Yeah,
and we just had a pre-recording conversation, and I think some amazing idea already came up out of that discussion. So if you want to be in the know, subscribe, and maybe we'll share our little secret. All right,
yeah,
Tony.
definitely. And if you have any comments or questions as we are going through, please put them in the chat below in the comment section, and we'll definitely read those and comment on them.
Yeah. Well, what's on your mind, Miss Tony?
Um, you had mentioned something earlier that I thought is definitely worth talking about, and it was something to do with owning your own power. That you were mentioning how we tend to look outside of ourselves for empowerment.
Mhm.
And I've been thinking a lot about that kind of thing too lately. So why don't we start there?
Yeah. So I would say there are definitely life experience in the past few weeks that provoke me to think about this. Um, and historically, I've always see me having some pattern of feeling a little bit overwhelmed or nervous when some important project, important work assignment, or important relationship um, present the opportunity for me to I guess to advance in any of those projects or relationship. And then I just felt this sounds too good to be true. I can't own it. Like I feel nervous. I feel, oh, I don't know what to do. Almost feels
Yeah.
like there is a sub personality of me that's trying to really paralyze all the action.
Like
Um
you're self-sabotaging.
in a way, yes, but I think sometimes
Mm,
it can be very subtle, so you don't even realize you're
yeah, yeah, yeah.
sabotaging. Sometimes it's more obvious. Um, but at first, or I think maybe many people will have similar experience in this, that you just feel, okay, maybe it's just nervous, right? You feel excited, you feel nervous because a lot of things are at stake. Um, so yeah, that's why we can do it, or we can do it well. Maybe we should just work harder, push our limit. Um, but recently I've been thinking that's not the right angle to tackle this issue. And
Okay.
I guess through some self-exploration, reflection, and meditation, what I found out is really a lot of it is about not willing or afraid of owning your own power in deciding what direction you want to take in some of these high stake moments. And we're so used to giving our power to other people, other organization, other structure. Um, when it's time, we can actually self-direct and own our power. It feels really uncomfortable. And in my case, I probably self-sabotage my way many times in my life. And I just saw,
Yeah.
I'm just being weak, I'm just being inexperienced, being nervous. Um, to some degree, it's true, but you are only looking at a surface level phenomena. You're not diving deep into the root cause. Like why do you feel nervous? Like why do you um feel you're just not good enough? I think
So what do you think are the root causes?
like I said, recently I had an insight. I feel the root causes is just we don't want to acknowledge that we have that power, and it takes effort and responsibility to use that power well. And then, it's, you can say in my case at least, sometimes it can be an excuse to not use your skill set and
Feels like an
experience that,
avoidance thing.
yeah, properly so that either you avoid some unpleasant experience like failure or judgment from other people. But the key is it doesn't matter. Even if people judge you, even if the result is not 100% what you expected, so what? It is a learning experience that helps you
Yeah,
improve. So
yeah.
owning that result and give yourself permission to do the best you can at whatever moment, um, and let the result unfold on its own and not to be too bothered by it is really liberating.
Hmm. I think the causes can be deeper than that as well for a lot of people. I know they were for me, that there's a underlying sense often that we're just not good enough. That that no matter what we do, it's not going to be enough.
Mhm,
A lot of us were, I think, raised with that kind of need to perform, right? To try to get some kind of recognition or
mhm,
attention or um, positive feedback, even as children,
mhm,
that it's easy to learn that nothing I do is ever good enough. There's always more expected of me, and I just can't. How could I? I can't. I'm doing everything I can, and they always want more, and it's just you know um, impossible, right? And so I think a lot of times that's where this sense of becoming a perfectionist comes from as well. But even if it doesn't get to that degree, I think there's a lot of that underlying. I'm just not. I mean, I may know that I'm capable of this, but I don't believe it, right? And and so there's always that questioning of your capability, that questioning, can you do it for real? Can you do it well? And what you brought up, that what will people think, right? And so I think it can be a pretty deep-seated underlying cause that keeps us from owning our own abilities.
mhm. Yeah, we talked quite a bit last week around a related topic. I will re-emphasize that I think
Okay.
eventually it's about you feel safe and you feel comfortable to do whatever
Mm,
you want and not to be bothered and accept that, any result can happen. But even any result can happen, there's always more. It's not going to, threat your existence, um, even if the result is not what you expected. I think psychologically
yeah.
we probably tie the outcome too much to our identity. Like if we don't win, if we don't get this result, if I don't have this relationship, my life is not worth it. It's a completely failure. It's so painful. I'm not going to handle it. But that we know that that's bullshit, right?
Do we?
Life goes on.
Do we
Life
really?
goes on. Life goes on, and there's always more opportunity. There's always people who care about you, who will show up in your life. There's always other opportunities to improve. And I think we grew up in a society, especially where I came from. It seems that everyone is trained to believe that you need to compete for your survival. Like
Mm,
anytime that you're not performing in the level that's at the top, your survival is in danger. I think that mindset eventually destroyed our nervous system, and we just treat everything as a survival situation, which is not the case about life. And I understand there
right.
are people who have more privilege than other people in life, and obviously there are legitimate survival concerns in unfortunately in lots of what's going on in the world. But I
Hmm.
think for the vast majority of us, we're not facing survival in any situation.
Right,
Even if
right.
you have major setback in life, as long as you are still alive, you you have a chance to,
We have the next moment to do
yeah,
something different.
to do
Yeah,
something different, and you're still safe.
yeah. There's
Um,
something you mentioned about this being the outcome tied to your identity.
mhm,
And that made me think about how uh, we're so performance oriented,
mhm,
right? It's all about what we're doing,
yeah,
and we're judging what we're doing compared to what other people are doing. And
mhm,
what should we be doing? Are we doing the right thing?
mhm,
Right? It's all performance oriented, and it is like we're living on a stage or
mhm,
in a movie, right? Where we're playing a role and we're not always sure what role we're supposed to be playing. And I can't be the star. I'm not
mhm,
the star, right? And we're waiting for the director to tell us what to do, and then somebody to say, hey, good job, right? And it's all like performance stuff.
mhm,
And I think getting that's easy to get lost in then, because that's all very like you're judging yourself.
mhm,
And what are you basing your judgment on?
mhm,
Right? Like what it's all made up in your own mind, really, in the end.
mhm,
You think other people are thinking this, or you imagine that people will feel this way about you if you do that,
mhm,
right? It's all like just created in this play that you're playing out. And that's then giving your power away. I think that's where I wanted to get with this, is that you're giving your power away when you do that, all based on some kind of mental construct that isn't necessarily reality.
yeah, mhm,
And that we have to, I think, get away from this performance and seeing ourselves as identifying ourselves as what we're doing,
mhm,
and start identifying ourselves as something more than just what we're doing. I'm the one who's doing stuff. Who's the I?
mhm, yeah,
Right? I think that's the key,
mhm,
because if we're going to really own our power, we have to know who we are, who's owning it, and what is my power.
yeah,
And I don't think people stop and think about that.
mhm, mhm,
They think about it's what I'm doing. It's not what you're doing. And
mhm,
we try to do more and do more so that we get what we want, but we don't end up really ever getting it. And we're like, why? I've been doing so much.
mhm.
Yeah. I think we have to get away from that
Yeah,
doing of
there
things.
there's a difference in doing things out of survival concern versus doing things consciously. So consciously
Yeah.
choosing
Yeah.
is the key here. You can do a lot of things out of your fear, but would that work? You can try
Mhm.
your
Or
luck.
expectations of others.
Yeah, you
Hmm.
can try your luck, but I would say that having the courage to consciously choose in every moment what you can choose is empowerment. It is owning your
Yeah.
power, owning your
Yeah.
presence, um,
Yeah.
and not to be bothered by all the fears that you have about the outcome, about your survival. Then that's the key. It's not easy, but that's the key. Mhm,
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
mhm. Yeah, and also,
I lived a lot of my life that, but
yeah,
oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, I know some of these fears are mental construct, but they do a lot of times have influences, right? Like the
Absolutely.
most typical one is childhood trauma, but obviously you can have
Absolutely.
trauma throughout your life, and for some people, it might even going into, let's say, past life patterns and karmic patterns
Yeah.
that can be bothering
Yeah.
across several lifetimes. So yes, it is a mental construct, but you can say that it can trace back to some very unpleasant and traumatic experience. And
It is.
it
Yeah.
is,
But it's still, even those traumatic experiences, I have found for myself, anyways, that if you can if you can be objective about them, and it's not easy to do, but if you get to that point where you can look at them objectively, you can see that whatever happened, you still had your own interpretation of that event,
mhm,
right? What you were thinking, what you were expecting,
mhm,
how you compared it to other events, and how you were expecting you yourself to change because of the event, right? That you always have that your own creation of everything,
Mhm.
right? That is your experience, that puts your experience together. That's definitely influenced by the exterior things, other people and things that are going on, but it's your take on it that you can often is what you carry with you,
Mhm.
right?
As my teacher
And you
always,
can change that. You can definitely change that.
yeah, as my teacher always say, you're always safe, even if you die,
Mm,
you are safe. I know
mm,
it's very unpleasant to even think about that, because our body only lives once, but in a way, it is true. We are profoundly safe, even when we can potentially be traumatized by a lot of things.
yeah.
Those traumas doesn't define us. Let's go back to the original question we have. What defines us, right? Um, are we defined by those pivotal moments, whether it's joyful event or traumatic event? Are we defined by our thoughts, emotions, actions? I actually think none of them is true. Um, so Miss Honey, what do you think is our true identity?
I there was a simple phrase that came into my awareness a few years ago that really put me like fast tracked me on my path.
Mm-hmm.
And and that was that you are not your past.
Mm-hmm.
And like incorporates everything that you just mentioned, right? Your past. But we do identify as our past. We identify as the experiences
Mm-hmm.
that we had through our lives. And we carry those experiences with us
Mm-hmm.
throughout our lives. Most people do, anyways, the vast majority of people. And that's who we think we are.
Mm-hmm.
We think we are the sum of our past experiences. And for some people, myself included, that was a pretty horrible thing. My past was not at all pleasant. And I thought I was just a total mess because of it. And when I realized the truth in that statement that I am not my past, and you may be listening and going, I don't get it, but maybe if the seed's been planted and maybe you'll be able to someday see if you think about it. You're not your past. Um, when that made sense to me, I thought, well then, yeah, I'm not. If I think of who's the I again, I'm not all those things that I had happened to me. I'm not even the things that I did because of those
Mm-hmm.
events that happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
There's an I that's beyond all of that. And so I had to then question, well, if I'm not my past, then who am I? And that's the beginning then of a whole new chapter of life, right? That's a whole new perspective. So I think that's a really important place for people to start because you can't, if we go back to what we're talking about here, right? Owning your power. If you feel you don't have any power and you're like, power, I don't have any power, right? Then you have to start somewhere to realize that, well, yes, you really do. And it might be really hard to see, and you may not even believe it. But if you look for it and you continue to look for it and say, it's there is something there somewhere, then I think you start to find it. And and a big part of that is not identifying with your past, not identifying, and that includes all of the conditioning that's been put upon us, which is a ton, right? That from our parents, our teachers, our religions, our experiences with our friends and relationships and the media and all of it, right, has told us who we are and who we're supposed to be. And you really need to see beyond all of that to find that spark within you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that spark, I think, that leads to that ability then to say, I have some power and I have the ability to find it and to use it,
Mm-hmm.
to own it.
So Miss Tony, what do you think is the spark? Will you equal that to something like the idea of soul?
Yeah. Yeah. I like the word spirit, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like your own spirit. I think that out of the, I don't know, I'll get into this, but it's kind of a little off topic maybe. But out of all of the energy that somehow chooses to come into this form, right? That you can call it the creator or source or whatever you want to call it, the universal energy, whatever it is, there, that source energy. There's something there that decides that you should be in existence. You know, there's something that consciousness that we have as human beings allows us to recognize.
Mhm.
There's something there that's causing me to be in existence, and I have the ability to recognize it.
Mhm.
That's what I see as the spark. That there's that thing that's makes me be.
Mm. And
Does that make sense?
no, it makes sense to me totally. But I guess for people who are maybe a little bit less familiar with some of the spiritual teachings, it might be very abstract. So maybe we can
Yeah,
talk about
given.
something
Yeah.
that's a little bit more tangible. So, Miss Tony, what do you think will be a good way for people to recognize that spark and differentiate it from your ego?
I think there are a number of ways to do that. I'm trying to remember. I had a little activity that I devised once for that, and if it comes to mind, I'll let you know.
Hmm.
I'm not remembering it all right now.
Hmm.
But I think one of the ways that is maybe easier for anyone is to think back to when you were a very young child, like your earliest memories,
Hmm.
and who you were then. Because when we're really, really young, like those early memories can be very fuzzy, right? And very vague, but you had a sense of who you were, even at that very, very early age, right? That there's a me. And I think that we can go back to that more easily. Like, who was I? Because I was very connected to my family, but yet there was I who was connected to my family. Who was that I?
Hmm.
Right. And as young children, we are not yet so corrupted with all the conditioning, right? And all of the judgments and all of the understanding of how horrible this world can be and how pleasurable and how, you know, addictive and all of that it can be. So as children, we have that purity still that allows us, I think, if we think back and think about who were you when you were a child, who was the you in that? I think we can more easily connect with
Hmm.
that sense of me.
Hmm.
Is
Yeah.
that more what you were looking for?
Yeah, I think so. It's about that question around human consciousness, right? Like, what's your consciousness? Like, what's
Yeah,
behind it? And is it just physical? And is it gone after you're gone? Your body is gone, or is it still, existing? So those are fascinating.
big questions there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've learned there are a few ways you can tell like how much aligned you are with that spark. Mm. So the first,
Okay, but do tell.
yeah, the first one is to evaluate how curious you are. Do you still have curiosity about yourself, about the world, and about people around you, and about the universe? Yeah, think hard about your curiosity level at this point. If you still have a very high level of curiosity, most likely you are quite aligned with the spark. And the second
Okay,
one is about, yeah,
I
it's
like that.
actually going back to the topic that we started this conversation. It's about how safe you feel.
Hmm.
You feel ultimately safe in speaking your truths, doing whatever you feel that's right. Um, and even if you face setbacks or challenging outcomes, you trust that there's always more to it. It's not the end of the day. It's not the end of the game. You're still playing this game, and you know it will be fun. So having that trust and ultimate feeling that you're safe no matter what you're facing is another sign that you're very aligned with your spark. Mm.
Hmm. I think that one's tougher than the first one.
Yes,
That
exactly.
maybe that's just me. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say the other one is about loving others
Mm,
and when I talk about loving others, I'm not talking about some performative act that, okay, I was told I should love others, so,
right, right,
so I
right.
pretend I care for them, but I don't care. I'm talking about that genuine care. Do you care about others? Do you generally think people are good, and even if they're behaving badly, do you love them even if you don't like them, right?
Yeah.
Um, can you see them as an extended part of you? And I'm talking about, like I said, I emphasize this is not performative. This is like from the bottom of your heart. Do you?
I have a little example of that from
Yeah,
my own life.
please. Hmm.
This was a really pivotal moment in my life, actually. I remember when I was maybe 4 or 5 years old. It's one of my earliest memories.
Hmm.
And I was raised in the Catholic Church. So
Hmm.
that's what I knew at that time, as
Hmm.
much as of it as a 4 or 5 year old could know.
Hmm.
And I remember I was standing at the end of my driveway for some reason with my mother,
Hmm.
looking out into the neighborhood. And my mother made some comment, and I don't remember the circumstances why she said it, but she made some comment about, you have to love everyone
Hmm.
equally. And I said, why? And she said, because everything that exists and everyone that exists is created by God.
Hmm.
And in that moment, there was an awareness that came over me.
Hmm.
And and the the entire world sort of went Kodachrome,
Hmm.
like colors brightened, everything was lighter and brighter and super colorful. And there was this knowledge that came to me that, oh, yes, of course, everything, everything was all created by God.
Hmm.
And in my 4 year old mind, that just made so much sense that it was like, how could I not love everything?
And how old
How
were
could
you?
I not?
Like 4? Wow.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. And to be, I have this memory. I've had this memory all my life, and I never really realized the impact of it until just a few years ago.
Hmm.
Right? That, oh my gosh, this, yes, right. This is, I knew as a child that this was the truth.
Hmm.
And I've lost that truth along the way. I've forgotten that truth along the way. I disbelieved it even along the way as
Hmm.
my life went on. But I came back to it, right? Because it was always there. It was always this inner knowing that
Yeah.
everything is the same, God, whatever you want to call it.
Hmm.
Everything is the same thing. Everything is created equally and therefore to be loved equally.
Hmm.
So I love that. I love that little story. I just wanted to share that with you because I think it exemplified what you were talking about.
I think it touched a lot of topics, like how do you define your soul, right? Because when you're 4 years old, I don't think those knowledge can be learned from your current life experience here. So
Mm,
that's very
no,
fascinating. Yeah.
yeah,
And
I knew that was a knowing. It wasn't a learning. It was a knowing.
exactly. And
Yeah. Mm,
I will also touch on another part. That's a sign that you're really aligned with your spark, which is
uh-huh.
really you like life. You just like it. Like
Mm,
no matter how hard or challenging
mm,
it is, you enjoy every part of it. You embrace it
mm.
fully. And this is very hard to do because I know we always
Yeah.
complain, right? We say life is
Yeah.
hard. Even when we're successful, we say, hey, why are we not more successful?
Yeah.
That's a sign that you might not be really liking your life. And but some people are, and the more you like
I
about
think that goes back to like we're looking for the outside
yeah,
things
yeah,
to show us that we are to bring us happiness or that
yeah,
right or joy.
yeah,
And we can never find it out there.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I found this quite profound, and I would say I'm trying to do a little bit of self-evaluation here. Compared to a few years ago, I think I made a lot of improvement in many of these regards, and now I can say I kind of returned to that. uh, purity and innocence. That's almost like a child that I
Hmm.
know I will be safe. I like my life. I like others. And I'm curious about the world. I don't know if it's a state you can always maintain. Maybe in some more precious moment or some moment of anxiety, you feel you're not connecting to that spark as much. Um, and I will advise you try to evaluate yourself from those four aspects of aligning with your spark. If you can find some way for you to feel safe again, uh,
Hmm.
find the curiosity again, like life and like other people again, it will help you make
Yeah.
more conscious choices in everyday life.
Yeah. I
Mhm.
love that.
Mhm.
I think that, if you're watching this, you might be thinking, oh yeah, that sounds great, but this,
Yeah.
I don't like life. I'm not curious. I don't want to, I just want to hide in my room. I think maybe for some people that's just like a pipe dream that they can't even see the possibility of that being true.
Hmm.
And and like on one end, it's a spectrum, but on the other end, there's to speak to what you said, there was Ramana Maharshi maybe said it that he was asked if he ever felt heavy emotions, sadness or jealousy or whatever. And he said, oh, sure. But they come and I see them and they go,
Hmm.
so he never loses that spark for life. It's always there.
Hmm.
But he also never lost his humanity, that it's like those things are human things. They come, right? But then you don't have to embrace them. You can just say, there it is. There's jealousy or whatever. And okay, go on.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool. I think that's the other end of the spectrum, right? It's like what we might aspire to. And I think people are in every level in between those two.
Yeah.
Um, but what I think I was getting to with this is that if we go back to owning your power, I think that you can take really practical steps towards doing that. That even if you feel like I don't even know that I have any power,
Hmm.
that you can find it and that you can
Hmm.
uh, find that curiosity and find that interest in life again and all of those things that you can find your way there.
Yeah, I think it goes back to the I guess most fundamental principle of all that we discuss in in this session, which is feeling safe, right? Um,
Mm,
I think if you feel there's nothing you can do, you have no power, just repeat to yourself, I'm safe, I'm safe, I'm safe, and see what happens when you tell yourself that. Um,
mm,
and obviously, there are many other ways you can probably calm your body down and deliver that message of you're safe. For example, I'm sure there are many somatic movement that you can do,
yeah, yeah.
meditation you can do,
Tapping.
feeling the support from your loved ones. Those are great ways to help you feel safe and have stay in the community. Um, and I think the key is when you're in doubt about your power, really tap into like what's stopping you, like why are you not feeling safe to own your power? And even if you cannot find it at the moment, just try your best to remind yourself you are safe because you are safe. Um, and I'll speak this. I think it's a little bit controversial, but I would say that even if you die, you're safe. So, and your safety doesn't depend on what other people do to you. It's
Hmm.
entirely depending on
Hmm.
how you are relating to your life experience, to the world, and to other people. So, safety is
Yes.
something that you can give to yourself. Maybe other people will reflect some example and inspire you to and invite you to feel safe. But eventually, you're the one who can give yourself the safety. And
Yes.
having that safety really changed how you relate to others and to the world. And I'll call it love and self love. Like that's the biggest
Hmm.
love
Hmm.
you can give to yourself to let
It's interesting that I'm sorry, were you done? I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, I'm done. I'm just saying that
Oh,
love
okay.
and safety is the biggest gift you can give to yourself.
Yeah.
Mhm,
A lot of the words that you've been choosing to use really fit with this program I've been developing that I've been calling "Choose to Use Your Power."
mhm,
That that really kind of starts at the foundation of this kind of thing.
mhm,
That looks at the four aspects of yourself. So your mind, your body, your
mhm,
heart, and your spirit.
mhm,
And that we so often are identified as our thoughts, but we have to learn that we're not. You are not your thoughts. If your thoughts are driving you crazy, then they're driving you crazy. You can choose what your thoughts are doing. Believe it or not, you can. And if you start there, I always suggest to start there with your thoughts, but that will help you get a sense of who you are,
mhm,
or at least of who you're not.
mhm,
Right. And then it's the same with your body. We so often can feel like we are victims of our own bodies, right? That they always hurt, they always need something. It's, I weigh too much, I don't weigh enough, my skin is sagging or getting wrinkles or whatever it may be, that we seem to be like victimized by our own bodies. Why am I not muscular enough? Why do I have this flab? Whatever it might be,
mhm,
right? And we can also take control of our bodies. We have bodies. I mean, the words are right there. You have a mind, you have a body. You are not your mind and you are not your body. You're more than that. And you can learn to take control of your body. And it's the same with emotions. Some people are so driven by their emotions, and we all are to some degree. And it can feel like we have no choice, right? That our emotions are just controlling us all the time. But our emotions are also things we have. They are not us. And we can learn to recognize them and to control them and to use them appropriately.
mhm,
And it's the same with our spiritual journey. Most of us just ignore that part altogether
mhm,
and feel like, well, there's something out there I should be doing, but I don't know what. So that brings guilt and shame and all kinds of things upon ourselves. So um, so like I say, I've been developing this program for some time, but the idea is that you can learn very practical ways to sort of take back control, to say that there's a me that is not these things, that I am in control of these things, and I can make them work for me. Because essentially, they are not your enemy. Your mind might feel like your enemy, your body might feel like your enemy, but it's not. In your emotions as well, they are trying very hard to help you and to support you and to give you what you really need and deserve. But without the proper guidance, they're like little kids running amok, right? They're like, "Oh, I'm going to try, I'm going to try, gotta do this, gotta do this, gotta do that, Daddy." But they don't have any guidance. So they need that guidance. And that comes from your true self, like we were talking about before, right? Your true you. And you can learn how to do that. You really can. And I think as you do, you find that power within yourself.
mhm,
And you find that you do have a power to control your life and to lead your life and to choose for yourself and to find joy within yourself and to bring that joy and the happiness and the circumstances into your life that um, that shows you that you really do have power and you can own that power.
mhm,
And so I think there are very practical things
mhm, mhm,
that you can do that is
mhm.
uh, a good starting point.
Yeah. And I have been thinking we probably want to clarify the definition of power a little bit.
Sure.
I personally don't think power is about purely about control over yourself or other people. I think power essentially is about aligning with the more innate part of you, the spark of who you
Absolutely.
are, and manifesting that spark as much as possible, and not
Absolutely.
be afraid of all the common fears that we just discussed,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
about that free flowing of energy. And it is not about me suppressing other people or suppressing the need and want and desire of myself. It's more about having this very expansive way of thinking, moving, and feeling
Hmm.
um, that
Connected.
and connected, and
Mm-hmm.
always resourceful. You're always grounded.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The potential is limitless, and creating with that spark, it's what
Yes.
I would call power. It's less about,
Yes.
you know, suppressing other people or suppressing yourself. It's
It's not
about
about controlling environment or people. Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah, absolutely. Hmm. But if you have no control at all to start with, I think for me, I had to start with the very, very basic,
mhm,
taking control of myself.
mhm,
And I think a lot of people do that you have to start somewhere with seeing that you can have a you that is greater than these things that seem to be haunting you
mhm, mhm,
or controlling you, that doesn't have to be that way. And I think that for some people, you have to start there. And once you get to that point where you can start to see that you do have power,
mhm,
that's then when I think it expands. Then you can say it's not just about me. It's not just about this. It's about so much more.
mhm.
Right? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know truth can be always paradoxical. um, yeah, it's actually when you feel the safety in yourself, no matter what situation you are in, you start to turn things around. If you keep
Mm,
reacting to your circumstances um in reaction to fear, you will be stuck in the same pattern over and over again, and start complaining like why life is so hard, why nobody loves
yeah.
me. Um, because you give too much power to other people and your circumstances to make a change. You need to tap into the very resourceful and creative part of you. That's not about fixing, but about this expansiveness, about this consciously choosing. Um, when you
Hmm.
start to really realize that, the momentum will carry you very far. Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. And we've been kind of skirting around this issue of um, with the owning your power part that we give other people the power over us,
Mhm.
um, that we believe other people have power over us, or even our circumstances have power over us. And I know so many people and I have too,
Mhm.
so much of my life, I was just looking for someone to give me permission,
Yeah.
right? To give me permission to be myself, to give me permission to take charge of something, to give me permission to make my own choices,
Mhm.
right? And no matter how much I thought, oh, I'm my own person,
Mhm.
you might be thinking, oh, I'm my own person. I make my own choices. Yeah, but,
Mhm.
but when it comes to owning your own power and really doing it from a place of creative awareness,
Mhm.
I think we so often are just waiting for somebody to say it's okay, go do it,
Mhm.
you know.
Mhm.
And the problem is that people don't. Nobody's going to come around and say, go, my child,
Mhm.
go and conquer the world,
Mhm.
go be your free self. I mean,
Mhm.
maybe you had some cool parents, I don't know, but um, I don't think most of us have that kind of support system or awareness in our upbringing that gave us that kind of permission.
Yeah.
And people just don't. So you have to realize that it's got to come from yourself. You can give yourself permission,
Yeah.
and say, I can do this. I don't
Yeah.
have to wait for somebody else to say it's okay. I don't have to wait for somebody else to do it so that I can feel it's okay for me to do it too.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
I think you touched some of the core concept about how power, permission, and choices are related to each other. And Um, I once read an article by other people, and they list different levels of power, right? Or how power, the need for power is manifested. And the highest level of what they call power is actually having that full permission to choose for yourself without fearing
Hmm.
of a wrong choice. And
I love that.
give too much shit about having a wrong choice. What if it's not the best?
Hmm.
That then you're
Hmm.
taking power away from yourself. When you truly can give yourself the full permission to choose without fear, because you feel safe, no matter what the outcome is, there's always more to come. You are in power.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I have, and I think too sometimes about what other people are thinking. That you mentioned, like we worry about what other people think,
Mhm.
and that affects our ability to make the right choices. And and it's so hard sometimes to not care about that. I think some can seem impossible to not care about that.
Mhm.
There's so many layers to that, caring about what other people think. And but if you think about it, you don't know what other people are thinking. You can't know what other people are thinking. And you may, I don't know, somebody may be thinking, looking at you and thinking, oh yeah, she's pretty cool. She reminds me of my aunt, and my aunt's really cool. You
Mhm.
know, I like her. And somebody else may be thinking, I don't know, what she just said reminds me of my high school teacher, and I hated my high school teacher, right? And
Yeah.
it has nothing to do with you at all, right? It's not about you at all. Other people's thoughts can come from who knows where. And so you cannot take them personally. You cannot assume you know what other people are thinking, because you can't. And whatever they say, you can't take it personally, because you don't know how they got to their conclusions.
Mhm.
So, it's a hard thing to do, I think, but I think it's vital to just do what is right for you,
Mhm.
to know what is your truth, to find your power, and act on it,
Yeah.
right? Make your choices based on your own truth
Mhm.
and act on it in that sense of safety and security, that it's if you're doing what's right for you, it's right for you. It's going to be right,
Mhm.
right?
Absolutely. And I would say at the end of the day, what other people, the feedback or their whatever they told you, it's only informations.
Yeah,
Help you to maybe come to your own conclusion, but you have to be the one who decide if that information is useful or not. For example, Miss Tony is my speaking coach, and I respect her opinion about my English speaking very carefully. So I'll take your advice to make myself a better speaker. But if someone else have gave me a random opinion that
mm,
for me it's useless in any way, like why do I bother if they don't like me?
right.
It's
Consider
okay.
the source is important.
Yeah, yeah. If they don't
But
like
even
me,
then, you always have to choose for yourself, right?
yeah, you have to choose for yourself. That's
Always.
your
Does it
power.
fit your truth?
Yeah, exactly. And I would say unfortunately we live in a world where it's very common for people around you to use guilt, manipulation,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
shame, and rules to try
Blame and oh
to
yeah.
control you and influence you
Hmm.
in a way that honestly is not helpful. And we are very prone to this kind of issues, and we
Influence.
unfortunately
Yeah.
we live in a world that manipulation is all around you, and you might
Oh, we're bombarded with it.
and we might feel
Hmm.
pressure to act accordingly or properly. But if you really trust yourself and give your full permission to be yourself, you will know what kind of voices is genuine and helpful to you, and what kind of voices are just distractions. And you don't have to listen to all the distractions. And when you really fully understand that and give yourself full permission to travel down your path and choose who you want to rely on, is when you really are in your own power.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think you said that beautifully. This might be a good place to stop. What do you think?
Yeah, and Wow,
Yeah.
I feel goosebumps, in myself.
Yeah. I think you said that beautifully.
Yeah. Mm,
Hmm.
yeah, I think it's a powerful moment for me.
Great. Oh, that's nice. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's sometimes, I think it helps. And this is why I really enjoy that we're doing this podcast, especially now this way. I think it really helps to talk about these things this is why like satsang and that kind of thing is so important. Community is so important and sharing it because you can hear a concept and go, "Oh, yeah, that makes sense,"
Mhm,
but you don't necessarily know how to apply it, right?
mhm,
If you talk about it and you go, or you study it, or you say, you know what, I really would like that in my life, then sometimes it just is, it needs to be spoken and shared, right? And you need to hear other people's perspectives, and confirmation, I think, is huge. It has been huge for me, that it's like, oh, I do that. Oh,
mhm,
I do that too.
mhm,
Or I've been thinking about that, and yeah, I could see that working for my life. And you go, I'm on track, right? And I think it is so important that we have that
mhm.
feedback and that confirmation from people um, that you know what, we're doing the right thing, regardless of where you're at and how far you need to go and wherever it doesn't matter. What matters is that you're being aware, and you're making an effort, and
Mhm.
you're working and thinking. I don't even want to say working. I don't like the word work anymore. You're playing with these ideas and you're implementing them
I
in
mean,
your
for
life,
that,
right? The best way you know how.
mhm,
And so I really hope that that you have found something here for you that helps you on your journey, that maybe says, you know what, I'm on track, that you can say for yourself, hey, I'm on track
mhm.
and I've been doing that, or that's a great idea for me in my life, so that you too can play with these ideas and implement them. And please leave a comment and let us know what, if anything, has sparked an interest in you or made you feel like, you know what, I got this, I know what I'm doing, that I too can find my power and that I can learn to own it. Um, so please comment, like the video, subscribe to get more of the same kind of thing. Share your insights. We'd love to see them. And if you have any questions or any ideas for things you would like us to discuss that would help you on your journey, then drop that in the comments as well. And we love having you here to walk this path with us. And remember that we are posting new videos about once a week. So check back, hit the subscribe button so you get a notifications button so you get notified when the next one drops. And until next time, be the sage
Be the seeker,
and be
transform.
transformed. Bye.
Yeah. Mhm.